Hey everyone, welcome back. Another episode of Talking Success. Very excited about this one. This is one that I've kind of had on the radar for probably since the announcement that Old Mutual were creating a bank known as OM Bank here in South Africa. I'm delighted to have Pauline Molloyi on the line, who is head of product and innovation at OM Bank. Pauline, great to have you on. Thanks so much. I'll kind of preface this with we've covered so many broad topics on our show, everything from kind of crypto to stable coins to digital banking through fraud prevention. Obviously, we had the big FATF sort of issues, a year ago. Looks like we're moving out of that, thank goodness. And there's a lot of talk in the industry around banking, certainly here in South Africa, what that looks like. Where does that leave incumbents? What are the opportunities? And really, where do the digital banks sit? So a bit of a loaded question, but Pauline, before we go into any of that, I'd love to get a quick intro. I know you're kind of a veteran, not just in banking, but in digital banking as well, which is very unusual. So Pauline, over to you. The mic is yours. I'd love to get a quick intro.
Okay, sure. Hi. Thank you so much for having me on the podcast. So, like you said, my name is Pauline Molloyi. The accent is Dutch. I came to South Africa many years ago and started my career in banking in what was then Community Bank, which was one of the very first entrants into a market that was at that point in time completely unbanked. That is so started pioneering in that particular space. I'm not going to reveal my age, but some decades later, I after having spent some time in kind of incumbent banking in various areas, I then joined what was Discovery Purple, which was their project to start a bank. Very much at the point it was a business plan in Excel and a bunch of PowerPoint presentations, so very greenfields, and built the product side of that business. And as that business started stabilizing, realized I needed another challenge. So when Old Mutual came knocking and said, "We're busy building a bank," I was like, I could do this again, right? That is. And it's been an interesting journey with lots of new learning. So I don't think veteran, not a master yet in building new banks. There's still lots of things one learns on these journeys.
I'd love to talk about that. Obviously, it's not cut and paste, right? It's not, we did what we did with Discovery and we'll just pick that up and put that into a new environment. Changing dynamics, changing technologies, changing everything, right? So what were the key things that really made you make that switch, and what was so interesting about OM Bank in terms of concept? Because I think there's lots of players in the market that are going, "Oh, we're going to create a bank." So I know it's a lot easier said than done. $20 million is probably what you need in your back pocket before you even get started. But let's talk about that. So what was different and what were the learnings?
That is, so I think the kind of jump to OM Bank was two reasons. I think one was the technology piece. So the perspective of moving away from a single stack banking solution into actually working with a array of partners who are experts in their particular domains, but then bring that together into a coherent network that then ultimately delivers value to customers, I think was an absolutely new challenge, right? That is obviously all of the stuff we do here is cloud native. I think at Discovery we still had some on-prem solutions for the stack, so that brings new possibilities into the environment, and certainly also from a real-time data point of view, which is I think were building blocks that would allow you to take something that that is quite personalized and bespoke into something that's very scalable and that allows you to do different things for different customers at very, very fractional cost, right? Because we, because the market space we play in is very different. So we are far more of a mass middle market play, and therefore those customers also have the needs to have something that's specific to them, right? It's not an homogeneous group of people that all want exactly the same thing, but you can't necessarily solve for it the same way that you solve for those things when you run affluent spaces, semi-private banking kind of offers, etc., etc. So here you've got to be very clever with your tech, clever with your data to create personalized experiences that means something to a customer, but that also are affordable for and scalable for the business itself.
I suppose from a customer perspective, which I'd like to delve a little bit deeper on. I think everyone's the industry or industries are guilty of putting people into buckets, right? Yeah. You fit this persona, and that's your persona, and regardless of your own kind of nuances or circumstances, that's what we're aiming to serve. Because we can't give one-to-one service to everyone. But from what you're explaining here, from that sort of microservices, that cloud-enabled, the partnership approach, the ability to have all of that data and utilize that data, are you able to then almost defragmenticize, if that's even a word, the markets and the customers, and give them a little bit more, put them rather into broad buckets, put them into kind of the smaller sort of personas and offer custom services to them? Is that?
Yeah, so I think that's part of it, but I think it starts with putting another lens onto segmentation. Because in banking, we typically go like, okay, you earn between 3,000 and 8,000, and therefore you're in this bucket, and you earn. So it's very income driven kind of segmentation. And what our departure point when we started thinking about it was really is not necessarily about the income, but the relationship people have with money. And that is so this is the how in control of my financial life am I, right? In terms of basic decision making, but also how do I understand financial products and how do I engage with it, right? And if we talk about, I mean, we love to do this thing, as every bank I've worked with, they go like, okay, no, we must enhance our statements and put little pie charts on it so people can see where they spend their money, right? Go and find out how many people think graphs are useful in their lives. That's not everybody. A lot of people go like, what am I supposed to do with that, right? So they want to be talked to, right? Explain this to me in a chatty kind of scenario. So we started very much focusing on how do I want to engage with it, and then where am I on that cycle from I'm struggling to make ends meet. I really don't know. I don't know where my money goes, but it's gone anyway, to like, actually, I have a plan. I'm saving for some things in the future. I do that. And actually, interestingly enough, whilst there is a correlation with income, it isn't a one-for-one kind of comparison. You find people in higher incomes equally struggling to make ends meet due to the obligations that they got themselves into.
Absolutely, yeah. And how would you achieve that? Through kind of the chatting side? So again, I think most people are familiar now with using WhatsApp or even ChatGPT. I think that's become very, very common. So is that through kind of a chat interface rather than the graphs and the graphical insights?
Yeah. So remember, when you start out, you. I mean, banks that have been in the business for a long time sit on a gold mine of data. A new bank doesn't, right? Because it actually is starting out that journey. So our initial approach is very much around asking the customer and not doing a 20,000 Q&A when you're on board, but during the journey, ask customers how they prefer to be engaged with, ask them around the things that matter to them on kind of an incremental mental basis, to just gather those kind of data points that helps you get a better picture of what customers are looking for. We're looking for designing engagements that are just a little bit more intuitive, that like banks allow you to set a savings goal, and it sounds very, very pedestrian when you kind of say, like, listen, but our savings goal have a picture associated with it. But that picture tells us so much about the person in question in terms of how you're thinking about money when you want to start setting aside those things. So that's the experience we're building with customers, the information we're gathering, and as we go and grow through this process and gather more insights, the real objective is to ultimately not just use data for the gain of the bank, but to actually use data to deliver value to the customer. So if I can give you insight in what is happening in your financial life, I mean, I don't change your circumstances, right? That I can't do as a bank, but I can certainly give you insights for you to make the right kind of decisions, and preferably not with this like patronizing, like, sorry, but you've exceeded your budget, or you haven't done this right, or you haven't done that right, but really in a way where customers can understand what is going on, and then make their own decisions and potentially make better decisions for themselves.
And then the suite of products that you're designing and you're offering to the customers, as you mentioned, the different market segment to what you were doing at Discovery. What are the core needs? Again, I'm being a bit more general here, but is it more sort of transactional and payments? Is it savings? Is it the element of saving and investing? Is it bonds? Is it loans? Where are you seeing kind of the focus for the product?
Yeah. So the starting point is always transacting and payments, right? Because without that, nothing else works, right? It's a basic need we all have, and as much as it is a means to an end, I mean, one has got to have an account so you can receive whatever income you make, and you can make payments. So that's the foundational part of that. Obviously coupled with savings, because savings is absolutely critical in this space, and also is actually surprisingly also a key part of this whole digital journey, especially when you start talking to a younger market. Is that the good news is that those upcoming markets actually have a big demand for savings. They are aware of the need to set aside money and to plan for their future. So that's a key component. But additionally to that, like credit is an essential part of what a bank offers. So we do that based on a credit card product where people can apply for a limit and get the benefits of swiping and earning some rewards on those kind of things, as well as we're currently in the process. We will be launching personal loans. Loans is one of the offers as well, because it is part of the need of the average South African, and we'd all like to live debt free, but very few of us achieve that. So, and I think the thing is that the connotation that lending is always bad is also not the right one. That is there are things that unfortunately none of us have the cash lying around to buy a car or a house, but there are also investments in our kids' education, all of those kind of things. It does help people build long-term, solid, sustainable basis for their life. So obviously that is something that needs to be catered for.
And how do you cater for the multi-banks? Because I think everyone, sorry, not everyone. It's very easy now to set up a bank account, whereas historically, we wind the clock back 5 years ago, it was a pain, right? You and I have been in South Africa long enough.
Yeah.
We know, traipsing into the branch and going there with your documents and then realizing you haven't got something with the right thing on it. You've got to go back again, and then it takes days, and then you've got to wait for your card. And we've kind of, I think we've got past that. Maybe not with the incumbents, but certainly with the other sort of digital banks or challenger banks that are there. But because it's so easy, the barrier to entry or the barrier to access is lowered to the point where it probably takes you less than 5 minutes or so to set up a bank account. How does a new bank like OM Bank, what's your retention strategy? So how do you keep your customers sticky so they're not going, okay, we can use an OM Bank for transactions because they're cheaper than X Bank, but actually we can get our salary paid into Y Bank. Not this called a Y Bank, by the way, everyone. I'm just using that. There is another letter bank, but anyway, we'll carry that maybe later on. But they, aren't using other services and other elements of the sort of banking ecosystem. How do you work that? Because it must be very difficult.
That is so. I think so. First of all, I think it's great that people are multi-banked, because that's where the market opportunity for new entrants lies. That is, people weren't willing to have more than one bank account. This whole tryout period becomes becomes very much like making a full-on commitment. Like you said, in the old days, it was so much of a problem. Like you were seriously leaving Bank A to go and bank with Bank B, and that was a decision that you weren't gonna backtrack on, because it involved a huge amount of paperwork. I think the thing is that the landscape has changed, and you win with your customers on a daily basis. So I think what the historic view was is that once you've landed the relationship, you were entitled to whatever came next, right? So the salary kept on flowing in, the debit orders kept on going off, and when that customer then wanted a home loan, they would come to you for that home loan. I think that whole kind of concept of having full share of wallet is still something that every bank aspires to, incumbents as well as, obviously we'd also love more share of wallet. But what I think we realize is that customers have the decision making every time they take out a new product. They shop around for this, right? And we know that in the market, that's why places like bond originators, the dealer financing on the shop floor, are actually playing a big role in shopping around for the best product for the customer, and every bank that plays in those spaces actually competes for the business right at that particular point in time. They can no longer rest on their laurels and go like, no, Pauline's my customer, so she will come to me when she does that. So I think when you think about it from how we think about transactional banking, it's the same thing, right? We have to keep on attracting customers back on an ongoing basis to make sure that they stay engaged in the process. Now, you have tools like we use a rewards program to tie customers into this. We use nudges around the things that they could be doing, which we think would be useful to them, and we make sure that from a pricing point of view, we also remain competitive in that, competing for an individual transaction, because believe it or not, a customer that is multi-banked will go, well, I pay $6 for the real-time payment here, and I pay 50 cents there. Where am I going to make my payment from? And so I think it's about being in the game on a daily basis to work with your customers to make sure they stay engaged in the journey. And obviously, for a new bank like us, it is also about still building out a number of further engagements we can give our customers just to complete the feature set.
Because you quite rightly said we are in a price-sensitive market. I think globally everyone's in a price-sensitive market, right? I don't think there's many countries in the world that don't suffer that. So, other than competing on price, there are obviously other products and services and innovation that Omen Bank is looking at to keep that customer, or to get as much share of that wallet as you kind of eloquently put it as possible. But let's call a kind of an apple an apple. There is price sensitivity, and when you've got some competing banks, for example, looking at payment rails, let's look at PayShap. We've got the incumbents charging all different rates. We've got another bank not charging for transactions below a certain limit. There is this kind of race to zero, almost certainly in transactional banking. Where do you see O&M Bank competing then? It must be, again, quite difficult to come in and go, actually, this is going to be our pricing strategy, because things change rapidly, especially in the world of fintech, financial services, digital banking.
Yeah, that's absolutely one of the big things to establish. So we have chosen not to go all the way to zero in terms of the competitive positioning. So it's competitively positioned, but it is not free, and I think that's based on our vision of how we build the experience with customers. Because yes, there is the issue around price sensitivity and how do you deliver that. And for the record, I mean, our pay shops under 3,000 Rand also free. So it is something that we really do, a market we want to compete in. But what we very, very conscious about is how do we create actual utility for customers around those payment mechanisms? Because as much as I go to payment conferences, I talk to colleagues, and everybody will always talk about PayShop and how that is changing the industry, and it's done so well, but it's done incredibly well at displacing other digital payment streams. It hasn't really made massive inroads in what it was intended to do, and that was displace cash in the industry. And if you take yourself out of your banking and your professional circles and you go and talk to people that work in completely different industries, they go like, pay what?
Yeah, absolutely.
Pay shop. You know what I'm saying is that that then they kind of go like, no, I don't know how that works. Okay, I know exactly how a cell phone to cell phone payment works with the bank I bank with, because that's been in place for a long time. But you can now do this to other banks. Like, no, how do you register for that? How does that work? So I think the key is that somebody said to me once the experience is the product. But I do believe that is a key tenet of where you can differentiate. It's gotta be super easy for people to make those payments and to get the confirmations that everything is in order and that the person has received their funds. Those are the things we want to focus on, because we think that's gonna increase the usage, and therefore for the kind of keep more money in the digital system, because that ultimately is what everybody is seeking to achieve. The SARB consistently reminds us of the fact that those things need to be achieved in the industry, but it is about like, how do you make that happen? How do you make that experience for people something that they essentially end up teaching each other how it works, right? Because I don't think it is just a bank education thing. Is that there's solutions in the marketplace that in the cash the sending cash space that I kind of go like, I don't actually know exactly how this works because I tend to send people cash, and then how they cash that out, I'm not quite sure because I'm never a recipient of those. But let me tell you one thing: is people all know how consumers know exactly how that works, and they haven't learned that from the bank. They've learned that from each other. They've learned it through usage and experience, and kind of go like, okay, this is how it works. So I think as long as we don't have the same conversation around PayShop, we still have quite a lot of opportunity there to just get in more market share by just actually increasing the usage rather than just competing away against existing payments.
Yeah, I fully agree. I think I don't think a consumer, and I mean this with the greatest respect to consumers, but I don't think a consumer really cares about how their money moves from my account to your account, right? It's like if you ask someone on the street, when you tap your card or put in your, do you know what happens? Like, do you know what interchange is? Do you know who the rails are? Do you know the settlement? No one knows. Why? Because A, it works, and you don't need to know, right? I don't necessarily need to know how. I've got this fascination about how live television works, but that's one for another day. So I don't need to know how that works. It just works, right? And I think that's probably where some of the successful fintechs that I've seen over the last couple of decades is they make things seamless. It's not about the technology; it's about the experience.